各位观众，大家好，欢迎收看中华电视。我们中华电视行走澳洲龙蛇共舞文化巡演活动 Mildura 一站，不仅有非常精彩的原住民表演，原住民画家同华人画家完美的合作。同时，在 Mildura 我们还发现了一种非常有趣的交通工具，中文叫蒸汽明轮船，或者就叫明轮船。这一期中，明轮船将载着我们畅游美丽的马瑞河。我们会一边欣赏成千上万只鹈鹕同时进食的壮观美景，一边倾听当地导游为我们讲述明轮船的故事。现在就让我们一起上船吧。Hello everyone, and welcome to 中华 TV. In the last few episodes, 中华 TV has started the journey of roaming Australia when the dragon meets the serpent art exhibiting tour. At our first stop, Mildura, we have witnessed the amazing Aboriginal artwork, as well as the seamless cooperation between the local Aboriginal painter and Chinese painter. At Mildura, we have also found something very interesting, the paddle steamer. In this episode, the paddle steamer will take us on a cruise along the beautiful Murray River while we watch thousands of pelicans feeding at the same time and listen to the echoes of the local history. Let us get on board, everyone.
Well, the paddle steamers have played a major role in the river itself. Started back in the 1850s in South Australia, and in the first trip on the river with the first two paddle steamers, they went all the way to Swan Hill and Echuca, over 1,000 miles in their first trip.
In the 1900s, when farmers and irrigators cleared a lot of land for agricultural purposes.
We're really dating back to 1847, when Francis Jenkins swam a herd of cattle across the river at this point, looking for an opportunity to settle, as was occurring along the river at that time. So that soon after that, we saw the development of the pastoral industry, which ran for 40 years before the concept of irrigation from the Murray on these what were then Crown lands was to occur. I guess the first thing to be aware of is that we reside in a semi-desert with about a 10-inch rainfall. That's extremely dry, and it's an unpredictable rainfall, so that this river of life, which gathers its water from very distant places, from the extremes of the Darling up into southern Queensland, gathering water off the eastern slopes of the Great Dividing Range, it has to rain somewhere else for this river to flow, and this really is the river of life that made permanent settlement possible.
They played a major role in the opening up of inland Australia, because they could do nearly 4,000 miles of navigable waterways in the system. So it was a big part of Australia's history. At one time it was estimated close to 200 paddle steamers working up and down the river.
Boats like these and the barges that they hauled were fundamental to the development both of the pastoral era. They brought all the heavy equipment by river up the Darling, along the Murray, and they transported the wool and other produce to distant railhead.
The paddle steamers actually played a major role in opening up of this Sunraysia district.
And they remained critical, I guess, until well into the 1920s, until motor transport became a good alternative.
The paddle steamer Melbourne itself was built as a Victorian government workboat. It's 100 years old now. It was built in 1912, and it was for the construction of the bridges and locks along the river, and it's been taking people on 2-hour tours through lock number 11 and return for 47 years now. Yeah.
This is actually not the longest.
The engine itself was built in 1910 in Gainsborough, England, and was shipped out and installed in Melbourne during construction. It's wood-fired still. All the boats along the river are always wood-fired because we've always had plentiful amounts of wood. We'd burn probably 8 to 10 pieces of this timber on a 2-hour cruise. Now we put wood in the firebox here, and then that produces steam. And the steam itself is taken out of the boiler into the engine. Like a big pressure cooker, you're boiling water to produce energy.
To swoop down and take small bits.
The engine itself really looks after itself. I've just got to be here to make sure it does the right thing. So we're doing about 4 knots running upstream at the moment. Going downstream we're doing close to 5. 5 knots, which equals about 8 to 10 kilometres an hour. Back in the early days when the paddle steamers were operating, they didn't have the locks and weirs to hold them up. So they could do a run from here to the mouth of the Murray, which is 800 kilometres, and they could do that in about 10 days. If you do an extended cruise on the river, this time of the year is the bird life on the river. We've got thousands of pelicans which have come to the river to feed at this time of the year. It's an experience that not a lot of people get, because this is one of very few places that you actually run a commercial steam engine up to 7 days a week.